PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And on this edition of Vegas Hockey Hub, we are going to be talking about and breaking down the Golden Knights defense. And this has kind of been a video that we've been wanting to do for a while. And essentially, the purpose of this is that we have on our list here 9 defensemen on your Vegas Golden Knights that we are going to be discussing on today's episode. And how this is going to really go is that we're not just going to look at what they did this past season, even though that is the graphic and the overlay we are going to be putting up on the screen. But overall, we're going to be establishing what have they done in the past, which could maybe correlate into what they're going to do in the future for your Vegas Golden Knights. So those 9 defensemen that we're going to break down and analyze on tonight's episode of Vegas Hockey Hub, we're essentially looking at everything we're seeing, and we're going to try to kind of predict what the defensive pairings are going to look like moving forward. Obviously, we know what's coming in the future. We know that there's going to be some very important decisions that are going to be made in the next month or two. So we're going to be doing this episode and really analyzing the defense for your Vegas Golden Knights on tonight's episode of Vegas Hockey Hub. Now, go to our website, www.prconnectionsradio.com, voice of new media. Check out all the amazing shows on the network, including Vegas Hockey Hub. We have about a dozen shows on the network, so I highly recommend going to the website and checking out everything we have on there. We also have our social media pages, so if you want to go to the PR Connections Radio network, they're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. They're on almost every single social media platform. You also have our social media platform as well, and that is at Vegas Hockey Hubs. We have a YouTube channel, we have a Facebook page, and then we have our Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok as well. So for everyone who's watching all around the world, we are going to be talking about the Golden Knights defense and everything that they are going to be doing moving forward. This is going to be a really fun episode. So let's get into it by talking about the defenseman that's made the biggest noise and someone who ever since he got acquired from the trade deadline has been the talk of Las Vegas. And of course, we are talking about number 15, defenseman Noah Hanifin. Now, when Noah Hanifin was acquired by your Vegas Golden Knights a while back at the trade deadline, there was a lot of expectations considering what they gave up for him. The fact that they gave up a young defenseman in Daniil Myromanov, he also had a few draft picks and everything that was moving around there. But the expectation for Noah Hanifin is that you would pair him up with defenseman Alex Pietrangelo, is that you would see a combination of a young guy, a person in his prime in Noah Hanifin, and then a Stanley Cup champion, someone who has been here and done that in Alex Pietrangelo. And so far, all right, it's only been a small sample size when you really stop and analyze it, but on that small sample size, Noah Hanifin has lived up to those expectations. He has been performing excellent for your Vegas Golden Knights throughout the last couple of games that we saw that Noah Hanifin was playing. He's gelling very well. The chemistry is lining up. And with Noah Hanifin, you're also seeing some of that correlation stuff that's translating over from Calgary and came over to Vegas, and it is adjusting well here. He is someone who is standing in front of the net. He's taking pressure off of Aiden Hill. He's taking pressure off Logan Thompson. And that is one of the biggest assets you can have as a defenseman. If you're someone that could be there on the back check, if you're someone who can disrupt, get your stick in there, cause some interruptions on the defensive side and get it back from being in your zone and then getting it back into the offensive zone and create opportunities, that's what you're looking for as a Vegas Golden Knight. Now, the stats that Noah Hanifin did this past season, now 11 goals combined. So we're doing Calgary and Vegas, all right? We're not just going to do his Vegas stats because that's not enough of a sample size, in my opinion. So using Calgary and Vegas, Noah Hannafin is a goal scorer. I mean, if you want to have him shoot from the point, he can definitely do that. If you want a slap shot, if you want someone who's going to be able to just rip it past the goaltender and get it into the back of the net, Noah Hannafin can do that. But something that also is a very valuable asset to Noah Hannafin is his time on ice. Noah Hannafin is one of the biggest gainers in the NHL when it comes to time on ice. If you want a defenseman who's going to play more minutes and someone who's going to be on the ice for X amount of time, Noah Hannafin is that guy. And for Vegas acquiring him, that would be an excellent choice for Vegas. Now, obviously the concern around Noah Hannafin is something that is going to kind of be addressed here, but I'm going to hold off on it for a little bit. There's the fact that when you have Noah Hannafin, he doesn't have that much time in the penalty box. When you compare his penalty minutes alongside someone like Nick Hague, alongside someone like Zach Whitecloud, even Brady McNabb, there are some guys who are going to be more times in the penalty minutes. But I will say, in terms of a skilled defenseman, in terms of having someone who's going to create opportunities for you, Noah Hannafin will get that job done. And that plus 15, that plus minus does look very well for the Vegas Golden Knights. So for Noah Hannafin, and when you study his statistics, and I'm going to read them out to you because I don't just use a one-season sample size. That's not what we're going to do. But for Noah Hannafin, the past season before, in 81 games, he had 7 goals and 38 points for the Calgary Flames. Very similar to what we just saw with the Calgary Flames and Vegas Golden Knights this season. The year before was actually his best season in the entire NHL. He played in 81 games, had 10 goals and 48 points on the season. That was back in 21-22. So for Noah Hannafin, this is somebody who has played over 25 playoff games at this point in his career. This is someone who's just coming over to Vegas, and it's going to take some time for him to adjust and eventually get into rhythm as he actually plays a full season in Vegas, hopefully. But with the Vegas Golden Knights organization and Noah Hannafin, you have to really sit here and go, okay, so the past couple of seasons, you had 48, 38, you had 37. Now, can Noah Hannafin continue to be that guy? Can he continue to be that player with your Vegas Golden Knights organization as somebody who is going to be able to continue to play almost every single game in the season? Now, keep in mind, he has only missed 1 or 2 games. This year, he only missed 2. He missed 1 game in 2022, 2023, and only missed 1 game in 2021, 2022. That is dependability right there for a guy in Noah Hannafin and someone who is only 27 years old as of this recording. This is somebody who you also have to keep in mind, by the way, he is a one-time All-Star in the NHL at that age. So for Noah Hannafin, he's actually where I'm going to start out with this. He should be your first defensive pairing. He is actually your kind of bright spot on the defense with your Vegas Golden Knights organization. And as a Vegas Golden Knights person, someone who's really studying this team and analyzing it, this is going to be your face of your defense if it does end up being a long-term situation. I believe it will. So I say he will be your first defensive pairing guy. He'll be your face of defense. Now, moving over to who they're paying to be their face of defense. A guy who next season is going to be getting a $12 million total salary, someone who came from the St. Louis Blues, somebody who is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, and I'm talking about defenseman Alex Pietrangelo. Now, Alex Pietrangelo, this past season, you know, he did some really good and everything that was going on. But more importantly, when you actually see what he has done ever since coming to Vegas, now granted, it's only 4 seasons, but I think that's enough of a sample size to really see what Alex Pietrangelo has done since coming over to Vegas. Now, year one, he only played 41 games. That was in the 2020 season, but he had 7 goals and 16 assists on the season. But since it was a limited role, you really didn't get to see everything of Alex Pietrangelo. That's why in 2021, 2022, he had played in all but 2 games that year, had a dozen goals and 44 points, which was a little bit lower than what he did in St. Louis, but was still a rebound season for Vegas. Now, the Stanley Cup winning championship season that they did in the season prior, he played in 95 total games, had a dozen goals, had 52 assists, and ended up with 64 points if you combine his playoff stats and regular season stats together. What an amazing season for Alex Pietrangelo. I also have to keep in mind that this was actually his second best season in the NHL. Okay, the only season that he really did better was in 2018 with St. Louis, and that's when he hit the 15-goal mark and actually got to around 55 points on the season with St. Louis. Now, what he did this past season is very interesting because, we're really studying and looking at what he has done now. 4 goals for Alex Pietrangelo is concerning, considering he had 24 goals the past 2 seasons combined. However, if we give him the benefit of a doubt, you have to really look at the fact that this is an Alex Pietrangelo who has kind of been in and out, someone who has actually unfortunately missed some games this season, but more importantly, he has had different line mates throughout the entire year. Noah Hanifin very recently, Alex Martinez, he was there for a bit, but then he got injured. You had Nick Hague, he stepped up and he was on the first line for a bit. Ben Hutton was on the first line. So because you had an interchange and kind of a swapping out of first-line defensive pairings with Alex Pietrangelo, that could be a reason and a justification for why his stats went down from the year before. Because when you have an influx and you have such a big change of people in your defensive pairing, and you don't have an everyday pairing mate like you have seen in the past couple of years, that could definitely affect the chemistry and could really help not get that same chemistry and that same points that you did have before. Now, because Alex Pietrangelo signed the contract that he did, and I want to keep everybody informed on this, Alex Pietrangelo signed a 7-year deal with the Vegas Golden Knights. That came with a no movement clause, by the way. So he has not 1, not 2, but 3 seasons after this that he will be a Vegas Golden Knight. So depending on what happens in the future, I'm not going to speculate. I'm a journalist. I'm a reporter. I'm just going to say what I know. Depending on what happens in the future, Alex Pietrangelo should be your first defensive pairing. Okay? Noah Hanifin, if everything goes right, it should be Hanifin and Pietrangelo as your first defensive pairing. Okay? That should be your 1A, 1B situation. Pietrangelo and Hanifin. Those are your 2 guys. They should be moving forward unless something massively drastic changes from here for over the next 1 or 2 months. That should be your combination right there. So as we are talking about the Golden Knights defense here on Vegas Hockey Hub, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and we talked about Noah Hanifin, who they acquired the trade deadline. We talked about Alex Pietrangelo, the big free agent signing from a couple of years ago, who helped the Golden Knights win a Stanley Cup. But what about a guy who looks like he might be on the way out? What about a guy who, despite his championship pedigree, it looks like his tenure might be coming up? Alec Martinez has been an incredible player for the Golden Knights. If you haven't seen my player profile I have done on Alec Martinez, I highly recommend watching that video. We did it a while back, and it was talking about Alec Martinez and how he is one of the best shot-blocking defensemen in the NHL. Click that link right above here. I'll do it in post-production. And you'll be able to watch that video, that player profile that I am doing of Alec Martinez on Vegas Hockey Hub on PR Connections Radio. But Alec Martinez has been a good member of the Golden Knights since being acquired at the trade deadline from the LA Kings a couple of years back. But this past season, this 2023-2024 season is very interesting for the Vegas Golden Knights, especially for Alec Martinez, for the fact that this has really been one of the first times in forever that he has missed considerable amount of games. Now, you could put this up to one of two reasons. A, he got injured a lot. Okay, you could say that because of his injuries and the fact that he did miss considerable amount of time, Alec Martinez only played in around 50 games this year. That was about it, by the way. Only 50 games is how much Alec Martinez played this season for your Golden Knights organization. So when you see what he did, you could chalk that up to A, he missed some time and everything like that, or B, all these younger defensemen that the Golden Knights have acquired, all of these defensemen that they have got through trade deadline, they've gotten through free agency, they've acquired via the draft, whatever it is, those moves have unfortunately made Alec Martinez expendable. And not only has it made him somewhat expendable, but you kind of look at his age at this point, and you consider that Alec Martinez is, he's over the age of 35. This would be his 5th season playing with the Golden Knights organization. And despite the fact that he did, like I said, have some really considerable amount of stats, 16 points this year. He had about 14 the year before. This is still the Alec Martinez that has not gotten anywhere near what his first full-time season in Vegas was, where he had 9 goals and 23 assists in around 55 games. Okay? This was the same Alec Martinez who, during that run where he played in 99 games with the Vegas Golden Knights during that Stanley Cup run, he only had 21 points during that time. So when you really study and analyze what he has done and what the past 3 seasons have been, he only scored 10 goals. If you combine, what he has done in 2021, 2022, and in 2023, he has only scored 10 goals in those 3 seasons combined. You also have to consider that despite 2022, 2023, where he missed 5 games, he only played 26 games in a full 2021, 2022 season. So, missing that much amount of time. And you also have to really sit here and look at it. 38 points in the last 3 seasons combined. It puts you in a position where I have to say this as a reporter. I have to say it as someone who looks at it from a journalistic perspective. Unless he signs a veteran minimum contract, unless he signs a deal that brings him back as a part-time player, kind of like a 7th defenseman type of role, I will not be surprised if Alec Martinez, once the season, once everything was done and up, Alec Martinez, he will go to free agency and, he could go back to LA, sign a contract there and his career at the team that he started his career with. You also have to remember that he did play hockey in Ohio. Okay, he played college hockey in Ohio. So maybe he goes signs with Columbus. He was born in Michigan. So maybe he goes play for the Detroit Red Wings. Whatever the situation is, Alec Martinez, I will say, is probably a good 60-40 that he is not returning to the Golden Knights after 2023, 2024. Because at this point, you have become expendable because of the young guys and the fact that you have gotten some injuries and because of your age. The Golden Knights are no longer going to have to rely on Alec Martinez to be your first defensive pairing. So, moving forward, after this, Hanifin, Pietrangelo, that should be your first defensive pairing. Martinez, he'll go to free agency. He will most likely walk away unless he signs a Derek England type deal during those last 2 years he was in Vegas, where he essentially played as a part-time defenseman as a veteran type of role. And this next defenseman, I get a lot of hate for, and it's somewhat justified, but somewhat not. Shea Theodore. Oh man, this is going to give me a headache talking about it. Shea Theodore, stat-wise, is incredible. Okay, offensively, Shea Theodore is one of the best defensemen in the NHL today. All right, 26 assists this year, 4 goals. There's also the same Shea Theodore who this season stayed out of the he stays out of the penalty box. He keeps his nose clean. I have to respect Shea Theodore for that. But defensively, okay? Defensively, Shea Theodore, my oh my. Can we sit here and talk about this for a minute? Defensively, Shea Theodore might be one of the most inconsistent defensemen I have ever seen in my life. When it comes to the back check, when it plays on the defensive end, his turnovers in the neutral zone, Shea Theodore is a guy where offensively, if I have a defenseman in the offensive zone, he is one of the best defensemen you can have. But when I put him in the defensive zone, I kind of cringe a little bit. I kind of have to kind of get a little bit nervous when Shea Theodore is skating in the defensive zone. And, it's maybe because of that. And maybe it's because of his defensive, lack of, that I'm going to say. Maybe this is the reason why I've never said that he is a elite defenseman in the NHL. He's great, but I've never thought of him as an elite defenseman. And it's mostly because of his defensive play. It's because of his production on the defensive end. And you know what? Considering this season, this is also the same Shea Theodore, by the way, who the past 3 seasons he has played in Vegas. Not counting this year. 2022, 2023, he had in 77 games that year, 9 goals, 45 assists for 54 points when you combine his regular season and postseason stats. 2021, 2022, he had 14 goals and 52 points. That was his best season in his career, by the way. That was in 21-22. So Shea Theodore is slowly going down offensively as well. Now, some people are going to sit here and say, well, he did get injured in 22-23. He missed 27 games in the regular season. And then this season, he missed about 30 games for the Vegas Golden Knights organization. Unfortunately, injuries are a part of hockey. I'm not going to sit here and say they're not. But the reality is, with a Shea Theodore, I don't know in terms of future security. If you're the Vegas Golden Knights, and if you get a trade offer, okay, I'm just going to put a random team out here, right? Let's say that you are, for example, the Boston Bruins, and you're trying to offload one of your goaltenders. If you are a team that could get a Shea Theodore back, if you could get someone that would help out the defense, you would potentially go out and do that. If you were the Carolina Hurricanes and you had someone maybe like Martin Necas, if you were going to go out and trade him and you wanted to get somebody back in that deal, I feel like a Shea Theodore would be a part of that. There's so many players that I could really name. Elias Lindholm might be another player that just off the top of my head is someone that you could really go out and get. But overall, when I really sit here and analyze Shea Theodore, I don't know what his future really holds. Because you also have to remember that his contract is up after 2024, 2025. So even if he does not get traded from the Vegas Golden Knights and he eventually becomes a free agent in 2025, well, there's no guarantee that he is going to be playing for your Vegas Golden Knights long term. So when I really analyze Shea Theodore, his job security with the Vegas Golden Knights is about 60-40. Okay, I say there's a 60% chance he plays out the final year of his deal, he stays in Vegas, and then he becomes a free agent in 2025. But there's also a 40% chance that the Golden Knights have an opportunity to bring in a superstar or bring in someone who can help out the top 6 with your Vegas Golden Knights, or if they could bring in a goaltender who would become an everyday, starter, your 1A goaltender, there is a chance your Vegas Golden Knights would do that. So for Shea Theodore, similar to Alec Martinez, when I said it's about 60-40 with him, Shea Theodore is about 60-40. All right, 60% chance he is going to stay with the Golden Knights, 40% chance that he is going to leave. Now, one player that I am very confident will not leave the Golden Knights, and that is my favorite player on the Golden Knights organization, and that is Nabber Brayden McNabb. Now, Brayden McNabb, this is a guy who has been one of the most reliable defensemen your Vegas Golden Knights have had all year. Now, just to keep this in mind, okay, this season and the season prior, he did not miss a single game with your Vegas Golden Knights. And as a matter of fact, actually, if you actually study Brayden McNabb, he has played the last 2 seasons every single night, okay? This is someone who, despite his stats, are not that great. I understand that. But if you look at durability, if you look at consistency, if you need a veteran that's going to play every single night, Brayden McNabb is your guy. And that's actually why he's one of my favorite players. Because of the fact that he can be in that lineup, you're not going to have to worry about injuries. I mean, as a matter of fact, with Brayden McNabb, really the only season that he had any injury concerns was in 2020, 2021. But even then, that was the shortened season. So there's always question marks and everything that happened there. So overall, when it comes to Brayden McNabb, he is someone whose contract will be up in 2024, 2025, similar to Shea Theodore. But my difference with Shea and Brayden is that Brayden McNabb is a great shot blocker. He's a good teammate. He is someone who is excellent for the locker room. And when it comes to Brayden McNabb, he is a veteran you can trust on the defensive end. Shea Theodore, not so much. So, Brayden McNabb, to me, he is very secure on that second defensive pairing. And Shea Theodore, I will say most likely not, unless they find a way to eventually settle on a contract extension, or if they just decide they're going to have him play out in the final year of his deal, whatever it is. But Brayden McNabb, he should definitely be your second defensive pairing. Now, your third defensive pairing, Zach Whitecloud and Nick Hague. I'm not going to waste any time talking about this. Whitecloud is here long-term. Hague is here long-term. The stats from this past season, Zach Whitecloud, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points, 28 penalty minutes on the year. I mean, this season, Zach Whitecloud, he has done a relatively good job for the Vegas Golden Knights organization. Now, the stats have gone down from the year before, but him being on the third defensive pairing and the fact that he was injured to begin the year was a reason for that. But Zach Whitecloud and his defensive pairing mate in Nick Hague is a massive reason why your third defensive pairing is going to stay around. Nick Hague, 12 points on the year. He drops the gloves when he needs to be. He's a bruiser. He's a hard-hitting type of guy. Him using that 6'6" frame that he has is vital to the Golden Knights. So your third defensive pairing will definitely be Whitecloud and Hague. Now, here are your 2 honorable mentions when it comes to defense. All right? You have the young, up-and-coming defenseman in Caden Korzak, who in a limited amount of time, thanks to Shea Theodore being injured, had 9 points and a +12 for the Golden Knights this year. Caden Korzak with Brayden McNabb actually displayed some really good chemistry in December and January when Shea Theodore was out. So, Caden Korzak, depending on free agency, all right, and depending on what happens with Shea Theodore, there is a possibility that you could have Korzak and McNabb be your second defensive pairing, okay? There is a possibility that these 2 here could be your second defensive pairing here in Vegas, depending on the Shea Theodore situation. And then the last defenseman, your 7th defenseman, is Ben Hutton. And Ben Hutton having similar stats to Caden Korzak. Now, unfortunately, he did get injured in around December and January. But if he hadn't gotten injured, his stats would be better. But yeah, Ben Hutton was on that first defensive pairing with Pietrangelo at certain points of the year. And that was his stats for this season. So this was us talking about the Golden Knights defense here on Vegas Hockey Hub. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Let us know what you think about it in the comment section down below. And until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. Continue watching hockey, go support junior hockey, and go Knights, go!